You sit at the kitchen table. The morning is quiet. Your coffee is warm. Your laptop is open. You are looking at a bank statement showing a mortgage balance of several $100,000. But you aren't sweating. You aren't angry. You don't feel that quiet panic that used to tighten your chest every time you saw a negative balance or a bill in the mail. You think about the version of you from 15 years ago, the one who got his first credit card, the one who felt a wave of guilt every time he swiped it, the one who believed with absolute certainty that all debt was a trap, a sin, a modern form of slavery. You did not get smarter overnight. You just learned to read the rules of the game. Today, we go through 7 shifts in perspective that took you from a terrified saver to someone who finally understands how the world is actually run. You at 22, you get your first corporate job. You want to buy a car to get to work. The salesman smiles, shakes your hand, and shows you a payment plan. It's a 5-year loan with an 8% interest rate. You do the math in your head. By the time you pay off the loan, you will have paid thousands of dollars more than the car is actually worth. You look at the contract and you feel a sudden surge of anger. You feel like the bank is a thief hiding behind a shiny desk, trying to steal your future labor. You complain to your dad. He nods, pats your shoulder, and says, "Stay away from debt, son. If you can't pay cash, you can't afford it." You accept his advice. You buy a cheap, unreliable car with cash instead. You walk away feeling proud of your discipline, but you are limited. This is your first mistake. You think debt is just a cost. You think it is a penalty for not having enough money. You do not yet realize that debt is a tool. You at 26, you've been working for 4 years. You have lived frugally, saving every penny you can. You have $20,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account. You feel safe. At lunch, you talk to a colleague who just bought a small rental property. He is not wealthy, but he is smiling. He tells you he only put $15,000 of his own money down and borrowed the remaining $100,000 from the bank to buy the place. You think he is crazy. You tell him he is playing with fire, putting himself in a deep hole. He looks at you and says, "But I don't pay the debt. The tenant does. Every month, their rent covers the mortgage, pays down my loan, and leaves me with a little extra cash. In 20 years, I will own a valuable asset for free." That night, you open a book on monetary history. You realize something simple but terrifying. The cash you are saving in your bank account is losing purchasing power every single day because of inflation. But your colleague's debt, that is also being eaten away by inflation. While his debt shrinks in real value, the property he bought is going up in price. You realize that savers are losers in this system. You realize that debt, when attached to an asset, is an escalator. You are 29. You start a small side business. You need $10,000 to buy inventory to launch. You have the cash in your savings, but instead of using it, you walk into a bank and apply for a business line of credit. You use the bank's money to buy the inventory. You sell the product, make a profit, pay back the bank their $10,000 plus a tiny bit of interest, and keep the net profit for yourself. Your personal savings remained completely untouched, safe in your account. You see the machinery clearly for the first time. Money is not backed by gold. It has not been since 1971. Money is literally created out of debt. Every time a bank issues a loan, new money is topped into existence. If there is no debt, there is no money in circulation. You realize that if you only work for cash and save it, you are hoarding a depreciating asset. But if you borrow to create value, you are leveraging the very mechanism that powers the global economy. You say nothing to your friends who boast about being completely debt-free. You just start using strategic debt to fund your growth.
A friend texts you about a news story. Inflation is soaring. The cost of living is rising. People on TV are angry, screaming about how the banks and the government are ruining the economy. Your friend is furious, nodding along. You look at his messages and smile quietly. You realize he is fighting a shadow. He is trying to survive by saving money in a system designed to debase it. He does not understand that the government wants inflation. Governments around the world have trillions of dollars in national debt. They cannot pay it back with today's money, so they inflate the currency to make that debt cheaper to pay off in the future. You realize that the truly wealthy copy the government's playbook. They take out long-term fixed-rate debt to buy real, tangible assets like real estate, infrastructure, or businesses. As inflation rises, the real value of their debt drops, while the dollar value of their assets climbs. You realize that complaining about the monetary system is like complaining about the rain. The rain doesn't care if you get wet. It only cares if you brought an umbrella. You are 36. You buy a larger commercial property. The bank provides 80% of the funds. You realize why the tax code is so generous to people who borrow money. When you earn a salary, you are taxed before the money ever hits your account. But when you borrow money, that cash is completely tax-free. Debt is considered not income. If you sell your property to get cash, you have to pay heavy capital gains taxes. But if you refinance the property, the bank hands you a tax-free check for the increased value, using the property as collateral. You use that tax-free cash to buy another asset. Your friends are busy buying liabilities, cars, clothes, vacations on credit to look successful, sinking deeper into consumer debt. You are using strategic debt to build an empire of assets that pay for themselves. You are quietly building a partnership with the monetary system. You sit across from an old classmate at a cafe. He makes a high salary, $250,000 a year. He's stressed, his shoulders tense. He proudly tells you he has zero debt. He paid off his mortgage early, and he keeps all his extra savings in a cash account. He feels safe, but then he sighs. He complains that despite his high income, he feels stuck. Taxes take nearly half of his paycheck, and inflation eats the rest. You listen, sip your espresso, and say nothing. You know he is trapped in the most heavily taxed, financially vulnerable position in existence, active human labor. He's using 100% of his own physical time and taxed energy to build his life. You make a similar amount of wealth, but yours is built on a foundation of bank leverage. Your assets work for you, and your debt shields you from inflation and taxes. You realize there are two financial systems, one for people who work for money and save it, and one for people who understand that money is debt and use debt to acquire assets. You look at your financial dashboard on a quiet Friday afternoon. You don't see liabilities anymore. You see flow. You see balance. You look at the news. People are still arguing about interest rates, debt limits, and financial survival. You feel a deep, quiet calm. You finally understand the global monetary machine. Debt is not an enemy to be feared, nor is it a toy to be played with carelessly. It is the fuel of the modern financial engine. Once you stop fighting the engine, you stop drowning. You didn't cheat. You didn't do anything reckless. You just aligned your strategy with the rules of the system. You open your laptop, approve your monthly transactions, and close the screen. You don't just understand debt anymore. You understand how the world works.